My fiancé, Walter, and I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau to register our marriage. We were only missing the last photo when he received a phone call and walked out, leaving me alone and in a predicament in the marriage registration office. I called him, but he didn't pick up. I texted him, but he didn't reply. Finally, I had no choice but to call his childhood friend's number. Unexpectedly, the person who answered was Walter himself. "Lani, you're being bothersome. Susan sprained her ankle and I have to take care of her today. Don't keep calling and waking her up. Our marriage registration will have to wait for another day." I bit my lip slightly and said in a soft voice, counting this time, "We've postponed it 4 times already." "So what? The Civil Affairs Bureau is still here, it's not going anywhere." I showed no emotion, but my heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife. The registrar looked at me with sympathy and asked if I wanted to continue. I gently nodded. "I want to continue." Then, I called my best friend's older brother and accepted his prior request. After hanging up, I told the staff to wait a moment. While I was still dazed, Phelan Harry arrived. He rode an extremely stylish motorcycle, and as he removed his helmet and stepped in, he immediately captured the attention of quite a few people in the registration room. Phelan Harry walked straight up to me, sat down in the chair next to me, crossed his legs, and said with a mocking smile, "Did you finally make up your mind? Agree to a fake marriage with me to deal with the trouble at home?" I gave a slight nod. Actually, it wasn't just to cope with my family urging me to marry. The most important reason for this marriage was that I wanted my grandfather to find peace before he passed away. 6 months ago, my grandfather's health had rapidly deteriorated, and he was hospitalized every day. Every time he saw me, he would ask, "When will you get married? I want to see you in a wedding dress. I want to see you walk down the aisle. That way, even if I'm gone, someone will love and care for you." That's why I had urged Walter to marry me 6 months ago. We had been to the Civil Affairs Bureau 4 times, but each time, we failed due to various reasons. The first time was because Susan was in unbearable pain from her period, and he had to go home to cook her brown sugar water. The second time was because she lost her keys and couldn't get into her house, so he had to go back to open the door. The third time was because she was hungry and wanted to eat duck blood, vermicelli from the northern city, and he had to go queue for it. All 4 times it was because of Susan, and each time, Walter abandoned me without hesitation. Ironically, I gave him 4 chances, but he couldn't spare even a small amount of time for me to take one final wedding photo. In truth, I wasn't too heartbroken when he left this time. Perhaps it was because I had gotten used to it, or maybe I had already expected it. It was only then that my grandfather's words to me not long ago echoed in my mind. "Lani, I'm afraid I don't have much time left and I might not be able to see you in your wedding dress. But later, even if you are alone, you must live strongly and not let anyone bully you." I had promised my grandfather that I would definitely be strong. Therefore, this time, I would not compromise. "Walter, I had given you enough chances." This time, my registration with Phelan Harry proceeded smoothly through the initial procedures. It wasn't until he and I were about to take our wedding photo that my phone suddenly rang. It was a message from Walter. "All right, Lani, don't be angry anymore. I really couldn't leave this time. But I've cooked all your favorite dishes at home. Come back early." Phelan Harry glanced at me and asked lazily, "Do you still want to proceed?" I took a deep breath and said emotionlessly, "Proceed. Complete the marriage procedure." A few hours later, I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, holding the marriage certificate. Before leaving, I turned to Phelan Harry and said, "Are you free tomorrow? I need your company for something." Phelan Harry took a long stride, his foot already on the motorbike seat, as he replied, "Call me if you need anything. Maybe in a few days my parents will need you to play a role too." With that, he drove off. I just felt the impermanence of life. 7 years with Walter, 4 years in college, 3 years post-graduation, ultimately didn't lead to the end of the road. Yet, with my best friend's brother, I got married after meeting him just once. On the way home, Walter sent another message with a picture attached. The photo showed a table crowded with a rich array of dishes. "Why aren't you back yet? I've finished cooking everything. Come late and you won't have any left?" He was a man of his word. He texted that if I was late, the food would be gone, and sure enough, when I got home, the dining table was a mess, and all the dishes had been completely eaten. At that moment, Susan sat beside the table, feigning innocence like a white lotus, and looked at me with an innocent expression, saying, "Sister, I'm so sorry. I was so hungry I couldn't bear it, and ate first." Even if I was foolish, I clearly realized she was provoking me. In that instant, I felt the blood rush to my head. My hands clenched into fists, and my sharp fingernails dug deep into my palms. Susan and Walter had been childhood friends, so in his eyes, she was always the top priority. Actually, in the beginning, the relationship between Walter and me progressed smoothly. We rarely argued, and whenever there was a disagreement, he was always the one to initiate reconciliation. Whether it was my fault or not, he would always apologize first. Even my best friend had admired me more than once, saying, "You are so lucky to have met a man who dotes on you like this." But that admiration ended 6 months ago. Ever since Susan appeared, his favoritism was no longer directed at me. "Lani, why are you only coming back now? Didn't I remind you early?" Walter walked out of the kitchen and immediately frowned when he saw me. In his mind, as soon as he messaged me, I should have rushed back. "I had some business on the way, so I came back late." "What business was so important that you missed dinner?" His tone was calm, but there was a hint of reproach. I didn't intend to discuss the marriage with him anymore. Having decided to leave, Walter was now just a stranger to me. I had only returned this time to pack my luggage. Nothing. "The company sent me on a business trip. I'm here to grab my things." With that, I didn't wait for his reaction and walked straight into the bedroom. However, the moment I opened the door, I was stunned. Before I left, I had clearly tidied up, but now, the bed was a chaotic mess, and the closet had been ransacked. I could overlook those things, but on the bedside table, the model skyscraper my grandfather had personally built and given to me was broken in half, with glittering fragments scattered all over the floor. I couldn't hold back anymore and immediately called out his name, Walter, who came into this bedroom, who touched my things. Walter walked in. He initially frowned, then nonchalantly relaxed his expression and said in an indifferent tone, "It's just a handmade model, isn't it? I can find someone to fix it for you." I froze for a moment. That indifferent tone was as if he was saying that I was just an object not worth caring about. Because of that sentence, I knew that the person who broke the model must have been Susan. Only she was worth Walter protecting to the point of disregarding everything else. Was it Susan? I asked in a calm voice, but the question was like a fuse igniting an explosion. Walter immediately glared and shouted, "Do you have any proof that Susan did it? Maybe that toy just fell and broke by itself?" "Lani, don't open your mouth and accuse others. If you want to say who did it, you must have evidence. Otherwise, I'll sue you for defamation right now." I gritted my teeth until I nearly bit through the soft flesh inside my mouth. The metallic taste of blood immediately spread. He truly knew how to protect her. I only said one sentence, and I was immediately labeled with the slander hat. But clearly, 6 months ago, Walter wasn't like this. I vividly remember the day I truly fell in love with him during a torrential rainstorm. I was in a car accident, and he ran desperately in the rain to the scene without an umbrella. That day, the man who was always composed and refined threw away all his reservations. For me, cried out on the roadside, and even rushed to fight the driver who hit me. But why had the man today changed so much? I didn't argue further. Just as Walter said, I had no evidence. I could only silently squat down, pick up the scattered fragments of the model, across the floor, and gather the 2 broken sections of the skyscraper model. Outside the door, Susan's soft, pathetic voice rang out. She limped in. "Walter, don't argue with her anymore. Even if I didn't do it, if she wants to blame someone, she can blame me. No one has ever liked me since I was little, so it's normal for her not to like me." As she spoke, she intentionally walked a few steps towards me, squatted down. In front of me, put one foot on a fragment, and deliberately twisted it hard. At the same time, she leaned close to my ear and whispered very softly, "That's right, I did it. So what?" A fire of anger immediately erupted in my head. I couldn't help but push her away. However, before I even touched her, Susan fell onto the floor with great convenience. Her white bandaged foot just conveniently hit the edge of the bedside cabinet. The next second, her stifled sobbing began. "Sister, I just wanted to help you." Before I could react, Walter rushed over, grabbed my hair, and pulled it back hard. That was a look I had never seen from him. His face was distorted with rage, and his eyes were so sharp that they seemed to want to kill. "Even if you don't like Susan, you don't have to resort to violence like this. She's a patient." Pulled up by my hair, I looked up. A bitter taste rose to my tongue, and my heart felt as if it were being torn into pieces. I didn't even touch her. Before I could finish my sentence, a heaven-shattering slap landed directly on my face. A red handprint immediately appeared on my cheek. "How dare you lie even now? Lani, do you think I'm blind? I was standing right behind you and saw everything. First, you falsely accused Susan, and now you pushed her down. I never expected you to be such a vicious woman." I choked, unable to utter a single word. In the current situation, I knew that no matter what I said, Walter wouldn't believe me. He released my hair, his gaze cold as he looked down at me from above. "Nothing left to defend yourself with, right? Lani, you truly are a wicked woman." Walter's eyes were full of disappointment, but I felt a sense of relief in my heart. If I had still held a shred of lingering affection for him before, now it all finally settled into silence. I sat quietly, no need to defend myself, no need to struggle to explain. Susan was lifted up by Walter. As she passed me, she shot me a look of triumph, her lips slightly moving to form. A sentence I could clearly read. "Do you think you can compete with me for Walter?" Susan's injured foot was bandaged but had been hit again, so Walter hurriedly carried her and rushed to the hospital. I staggered to my feet. In the full-length mirror opposite me, my face was reflected, red and with a clear handprint on my cheek. It was enough to show how angry Walter had been and how hard he had hit me. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh, reaching up to wipe away the blood that was trickling from the corner of my mouth. This slap, too, was the equivalent of shattering all the illusions I once held. I quickly gathered all my clothes and belongings in the house, stuffing everything into a suitcase. I threw away what I couldn't carry into the trash. Before leaving, I also contacted a real estate company to put the house up for sale. This house was mine. My grandfather had used all his retirement money to buy it for me, originally planning it as our marital home. But now, I didn't feel the need to keep it. I found anything that had been contaminated to be disgusting. I pulled my suitcase outside and stayed overnight at a hotel. For the next few days, I planned to stay with my grandfather, accompanying him in his final days. Early the next morning, I called Phelan Harry. He seemed to still be asleep. His voice was groggy. I had to urge him several times, and even called my best friend to hasten him. Finally, he got up. When we arrived at the hospital, Phelan Harry and I had a series of excuses ready for my grandfather. Because I had previously introduced Walter to him, my grandfather knew Walter was the person I intended to marry. To avoid worrying him, I asked Phelan Harry to pretend to be his grandson-in-law, Walter. Unexpectedly, after meeting, the two of them got along very well, talking about everything from the hardships of the past to modern artificial intelligence. They talked so much that my grandfather was reluctant to part when they were leaving. Finally, he gently patted the back of my hand and said with a smile, "Lani, this man is very good, much more trustworthy than that Walter." I felt a little embarrassed, not wanting him to know that I had simply grabbed someone to marry on a whim. I could only shamelessly say, "Grandpa, you've got the wrong person. He is Walter." He glanced at me, his eyes still very clear, and said, "I'm not confused yet. I know whether it's the same person or not. I just don't know if I can wait until the day you two have your wedding party." Hearing this, I quickly took out the marriage certificate and handed it to him. "Don't worry, we're already married. The wedding party is being prepared. You'll definitely be on time." Unexpectedly, my grandfather opened the marriage certificate, examined it repeatedly with a magnifying glass, and finally nodded contentedly. "I told you, it's not Walter, it's... what's his name? Ah, Phelan Harry. That's a nice name." I rolled my eyes at him helplessly and left the hospital room. Out in the hallway, I saw Phelan Harry standing there, looking like he had just been arguing with someone. I approached him and realized that the person arguing with him was none other than Walter and Susan. I didn't know the cause, but a sentence from Walter left me speechless. "If my girlfriend did something wrong, I apologize on her behalf. But you're a man bullying a woman like that. Don't you feel ashamed?" In his heart, Susan was the official girlfriend. So, what was I, ultimately, but a substitute? If you do something wrong, you should admit it. If everyone were like you, what would we need the law for? Can women just mess up as much as they like? That sharp statement left Walter and Susan speechless. Just then, I appeared and was spotted by Walter. A flicker of panic and unease crossed his eyes, but he quickly suppressed it immediately. Stepped forward, pulled my hand, and spoke first. "Lani, you've come at the right time. Susan accidentally spilled coffee on him, and he claimed the suit was worth tens of thousands. Tell me, isn't he deliberately trying to extort money? Don't you have a best friend who's a lawyer? Let's sue him for extortion." Susan also naturally chimed in. "That's right, sue him for extortion and demand compensation for our emotional distress too." Phelan Harry turned to look at me, a gentle smile apparent on his lips. I blushed with embarrassment, quickly shook my head, and said to him, "He's not my friend." Without waiting for Walter to react, I continued, "That suit really is worth tens of thousands. And the lawyer friend you mentioned is his sister?" After saying that, I immediately turned my back and left the hospital, not wanting any further entanglement with Walter. The matter between them was now no longer my concern. In the following days, Phelan Harry took charge of all the preparations for our wedding. I originally planned to just wear a simple wedding dress, just enough for my grandfather to see, and then be done with it. However, he said that wouldn't be worthy of his appearance. He said, "We have to make it look decent, at least." I understood that people born into prestigious families like his always had many demands and rules. Unable to persuade him, I yielded. Meanwhile, Walter asked me every day when I was coming home. I didn't know if he realized that I hadn't been paying attention to him for the past few days, but for the first time, he proactively set a date for the marriage registration. But unfortunately, I no longer needed that. Each time he called, I would use the excuse of being busy on a business trip and coldly hang up. The day of the wedding arrived quickly. I put on my wedding dress and appeared at the venue. Unexpectedly, a familiar voice rang out from behind, carrying both surprise And a hint of panic, Lani. Weren't you on a business trip? Why are you wearing a wedding dress here? Phelan Harry stepped beside me, looked toward the speaker, and asked, "Is that the guy from the hospital the other day? Do you want to go down and talk to him?" I glanced at him and said coldly, "A smart person like you must have guessed the relationship between Walter and me, right? If you came here just to watch a show, you've seen enough now." Just then, Walter rushed in front of me, pointed straight at me. His voice was angry, almost a shout. "Lani, I knew it was you! Don't pretend you don't know me! What's the meaning of this? You pretend to be my girlfriend, then act like you don't know me and marry someone else? Did you ever truly consider me your boyfriend?" I looked straight at him calmly. If it were before, perhaps I would have taken off the wedding dress and rushed into his arms. But now, I was frighteningly composed. "What right do you have to say these things, Walter? I gave you 4 chances. If you had genuinely cherished even one of them, the person I'm marrying today would have been you. It was you who, every time it was the day for our marriage registration, ran off to take care of your childhood friend. Well, I've fulfilled your wish. Now you can be by her side day and night. And I'm not pretending not to know you. I just don't want to be involved with you anymore." Just seeing Walter reminds me of the 7 years of wasted youth. 7 years together, exchanged for nothing more than an untaken wedding photo, a slap in the face, and not even an apology he bothered to give. Walter tried to say more but was dragged out by the security guards. Phelan Harry had called. As he was being pulled away, he yelled my name, rambling, "I'm willing to marry you, Lani. I really want to marry you." Phelan Harry raised an eyebrow teasingly. "I didn't expect you to be so formidable. Just a few words, and you've rendered him speechless." I glared at him. My voice was frigid. Right now, I absolutely hate being mentioned with Walter in the same sentence. With no one causing trouble anymore, the wedding of Phelan Harry and me continued. Since my grandfather was too frail to attend, I asked my best friend to connect via HD video on a laptop, recording every moment of the ceremony for him to see. But his condition was getting worse. The wedding ceremony wasn't even over when I rushed straight to the hospital still in my wedding dress. The hospital had called saying my grandfather might not make it. He had held on until this moment just to see me get married. Now that his final wish was fulfilled, his breathing was fading. I ran all the way, only to be stopped by Walter right at the hospital entrance. His eyes were red. He squeezed my wrist. "Lani, you can't marry that man. He clearly isn't a good person. Only I genuinely love you. Haven't you felt our years of affection at all? Let go. I'm in a hurry. We can talk about us later." I struggled to free myself from his grip, but Walter kept pulling me back, repeating apologies and pleas for forgiveness. Fortunately, Phelan Harry arrived in time, blocking him so my best friend could take me into the elevator up to the 3rd floor. But I was still a step too late. My grandfather had been covered with a white sheet. He had stopped breathing. The doctor shook his head and said, "The family came late." But the elderly gentleman passed away very contentedly. As doctors, we rarely see a patient leave with a smile like that. I hadn't seen him one last time. Now, I quietly touched his already cold hand, tears falling incessantly. My best friend hugged me tightly, gently comforting me. "Lani, don't be sad anymore. You helped him fulfill his final wish." The doctor also said, "He passed away peacefully." I wiped away the endless flow of tears, then gently stroked his face through the white sheet. Yes, he must be very happy because he has no regrets anymore. On the day of his funeral, a light drizzle fell. My best friend stood beside me with an umbrella, and Phelan Harry was directing the staff handling the burial of his ashes. "Lani, don't be sad. He definitely wouldn't want to see you so distressed. He got to see you get married, so he must be very content." I nodded slightly. Yes, he must be very happy. Even the temporary husband I carelessly found, he was very satisfied with. Thinking of that, I looked up at Phelan Harry. He was standing in the rain, shoveling the last handful of earth onto the grave. Seeing this scene, I would be lying if I said I wasn't moved. I whispered, "Phelan, thank you for helping me fulfill my grandfather's last wish. Tomorrow we can go through with the divorce." Phelan Harry brushed a few raindrops from his hair and said indifferently, "What's the rush? Your business is finished, but mine isn't. Just leave it as it is. I'll contact you in a few days." With that, he turned and left. I looked at my best friend with a little surprise, noticing her evasive gaze. She quickly said, "Isn't my brother being pressured by our parents to get married? He couldn't find anyone else. Please help him deal with it for a little while." I felt like something was amiss, but I couldn't quite figure it out at the moment. In any case, Phelan Harry had helped me immensely. I couldn't be ungrateful and just wash my hands of the matter. Walking down from the cemetery slope, I saw Walter waiting at the foot of the hill. He was holding a bouquet of white chrysanthemums. His hair was disheveled, clearly having neglected his appearance for a long time. "Lani, where is your grandfather buried? I should pay my respects too." I truly didn't want to talk to him, but since it concerned my grandfather, I maintained my composure and gently refused. "Thank you, Walter, but there's no need. Given your relationship with my grandfather, There's no need for you to visit. Unexpectedly, Walter burst into tears. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with remorse as he sobbed and apologized. I didn't know about Grandpa's condition that day. I just loved you too much, and I wanted to hold on to you. That's why I blocked you at the hospital. Lani, just forgive me. This one time. We will definitely get married this time. Grandpa will surely bless us from heaven. Look, all those times before I went with you to see him, Grandpa liked me too. Now that he's gone, I'll be the one to protect you in his place. I didn't know when Walter had become this thick-skinned. Before, Walter might not have been exceptionally capable, but he was a man of integrity and decency. But now, all I feel when I look at him is disgust. I was about to speak when a black car suddenly stopped right next to us. Phelan Harry pushed the door open and stepped out, wrapping one arm around my waist and pulling me tightly into his embrace. My wife doesn't need your protection. Besides, her grandfather didn't like you, he liked me. Phelan Harry sounded like a jealous child, immediately asserting his ownership. Walter was so enraged that his face contorted, his eyes were fixed on Phelan Harry's arm around me. Lani, rich guys like him are just playing games with you. Don't let him fool you. As for me, we've been together for 7 years, through so many ups and downs. You have long been irreplaceable in my heart. No matter how you change, I will always love you the most. He shouldn't have said anything. The moment he opened his mouth, I nearly couldn't stop myself from vomiting. The image of him pulling my hair without hesitation that day flashed in my mind. My scalp had been throbbing with pain. I smiled faintly and spoke sarcastically. You love me? Loving me means pulling my hair? It means slapping me across the face? Walter, your love is truly terrifying. I dare not accept it. That icy sentence immediately changed his expression. Every action he had taken seemed to flash before his eyes, causing him to unconsciously take 2 steps back, nearly losing his balance and falling to the ground. I just found it amusing. Did he genuinely forget everything? Or did he simply choose to forget so he could shamelessly utter those words? I looked him straight in the eye and said calmly, "Oh, just to let you know, I've listed that house for sale. Please move out with Susan soon. Otherwise, I will call the police." Walter froze for a moment, then glared at me. His voice was incredulous. You want to sell the house? I don't agree. That's our marital home. If you sell it, where will I live? I gave a cold laugh. Where you live is none of my business. That house belongs solely to me, given by my grandfather. I'll sell it if I want to. You are merely a stranger now. I hope you have some self-respect and move out promptly, to save me the trouble of calling the police and making a scene. With that, I didn't spare him another glance, decisively getting into Phelan Harry's car and leaving. Behind us, Walter screamed and chased the car, running and shouting, "Lani, we can get married! You can't just kick me out like this!" Along the way, Phelan Harry's expression was terrible. I wasn't sure what he was angry about. But these past few days, my spirit had been so exhausted that I fell asleep as soon as I got into the car. When I woke up, I found myself in a small apartment. Since Walter and Susan were occupying the other house, I couldn't stay in a hotel forever. Arranged by my best friend, I temporarily moved into Phelan Harry's apartment. My luggage had also been moved there. At that moment, my best friend, Vivian Harry, was sitting nearby, furiously. Typing on her laptop keyboard, her face was full of anger. "Vivian, what are you doing?" Startled by my call, she quickly turned off the laptop and vaguely said, "Nothing. Just watching a movie and leaving some random comments." I was slightly suspicious but didn't pay too much attention. However, a few days later, I started noticing strange occurrences. Every time I went out, people would look at me, pointing and whispering. Some even murmured, "That's her. She dumped her boyfriend of 7 years just for money. How cruel!" Finally, my company's manager called me in to talk, advising me round and round. After leaving the office, I searched online, and the whole truth hit me. I was being slandered on the internet. I recognized the account owner instantly, Walter. The profile picture showed a man in a luxurious suit with his face hidden. But that suit was the birthday gift. I had bought him last year. I now understood the reason. Walter was unwilling to be evicted from the house, so he went online and fabricated stories, playing the victim. He wrote that I was a gold digger who valued wealth over poverty, that 7 years of love meant nothing compared to money and power, that I had ruthlessly abandoned him to chase a rich man, that the house he bought for me was now being stolen by me, and I was even forcing him out. Immediately, social media was flooded with critical comments, a torrent of curses and insults directed at me. On the way home, many people recognized me, pointing and discussing without reserve. "Is that her? The girl who broke up with her boyfriend of 7 years just for money? How ruthless. Marrying a rich man is great. Romance only satisfies the spirit. If it doesn't provide material comforts, just ditch him. Gold diggers like her are destroying society." Just as I was suffocating in those criticisms, a black fleece coat was draped over my shoulders. Phelan Harry stood beside me, His expression was cold. His eyes were sharp as knives. Without reservation, he turned to the gossiping crowd. "What does this have to do with any of you? Slander is illegal. If you say one more word, I'll have my lawyer send a lawsuit straight to your homes." With just one threat, the crowd immediately dispersed. I was then escorted back to the apartment by him. Before stepping through the door, I could hear my best friend, Vivian Harry, typing frantically and swearing, "You useless keyboard warriors! If you're so good, come face me in person." Seeing me return, she quickly shut down her computer and pretended nothing was wrong. "You're back?" "It's nothing. I was just watching a movie and leaving comments." I was both amused and touched, and I whispered, "Stop pretending. I know everything." "Know what?" She paused, then immediately hugged me tightly, her voice filled with indignation. "It must be that bastard Walter. He's jealous that you married my brother, so now he just wants to drag you down into the mud with him." I wasn't as fragile as she thought, but her words still warmed my heart. I knew Walter was behind it all, but I didn't know where to start to resolve the issue. I only posted one sentence of explanation online, and immediately thousands of people flooded the comments to attack me. Ultimately, the company was forced to suspend my work, giving me 1 week to handle and suppress the scandal. Not long after, I received a call from Walter. "Lani, you regret it, don't you? As long as you come back to me, we can still live happily like before. I won't mind that you were married. As long as you agree to come back, I'll immediately announce online, you've repented and returned to me." Goosebumps erupted all over my body upon hearing that. All I felt now was hatred for having loved such a scumbag. "Walter, I gave you 4 chances to marry me. You were the one who didn't cherish them. You prefer to be with your childhood friend, so I've granted your wish. You just wait and see how it feels to be kicked out of the house by me." With that, I decisively hung up, but the situation online quickly spiraled out of control. My recent call was edited and posted by him, leading to even more furious criticism towards me. Immediately after, I posted the complete original recording. Very quickly, public opinion began to split into 2 distinct sides. One faction supported me, and the other continued to blindly defend Walter. In the midst of this, he angrily sent me a text message. "Lani, how dare you record me?" I gave a cold laugh. I wasn't stupid. Knowing that taking a call from him would only lead to trouble, not recording it would have been bringing disaster upon myself. But what truly surprised me was that Phelan Harry personally stepped forward for me. Walter had never mentioned his name online before, probably fearing that he would offend someone he couldn't afford to mess with. Yet this time, Phelan Harry directly posted 10 photos online, from when I was in high school up to the latest wedding photo, along with the caption, "10 years of silent crush, finally fulfilled." Not only that, but he also revealed the story of Walter standing me up 4 times during the marriage registration process, even managing to find the surveillance video from the Civil Affairs Bureau for those instances. Each video showed Walter heartlessly abandoning me, leaving me standing alone outside the marriage registration room. Immediately, public opinion made a dramatic reversal. What kind of weird man is that? The girl gave him 4 chances to marry her, and he still ran away? If it were me, one time would have been bye. This girl is my ideal partner, so sincere, it's just a shame she met a jerk. And it didn't stop there. A video of Walter hugging Susan in the hospital, clearly saying, "This is my girlfriend," was also dug up. In less than a day, Walter's personal page exploded. Comments calling him a scumbag covered every post. That evening, I invited Phelan Harry and my best friend to the apartment for a thank you dinner. When I asked about the source of the 10 photos, Phelan Harry hesitated slightly. Before he could answer, I turned to my best friend. "You sent them, didn't you?" I remember the first photo was from when we first met, taken on campus. The days gradually settled back into peace. The house I listed for sale quickly found a buyer, but an incident occurred when the client came to view the house. "Lani, maybe you should settle your personal matters first?" A young man absolutely refuses to let the client in to view the house, claiming the house belongs to him. I said nothing, merely asking the agent for 1 day to deal with it, and that very day I called the police. After presenting the entire situation, when we arrived, the police were already escorting Walter out of the house. As soon as he saw me, he started to weep. "Lani, are you truly that ruthless? This is our marital home. If you sell it, where will we live?" Susan was also quickly escorted out by the police, dragging a few suitcases of belongings behind her. It was ridiculous, but after all those years, very little truly belonged to Walter. His clothes, laptop, phone. I had bought them all for him. In that moment, I had an epiphany. For 7 years, I was merely the provider. For a leech, blindly unaware of the role I had been playing in his life. I said coldly, "I don't care where you live. Your belongings, I've packed them all. Go check one more time. Don't claim anything is missing later. I won't be responsible." Before I could finish, Walter shouted, "Where are my phone and computer? You haven't returned them to me." I calmly replied, "I called the second-hand buyers to sell them all. After all, I paid for them, and I have the invoices and proof of payment." "What? You dared to sell my things?" He widened his eyes, unable to believe it. Clearly, he hadn't imagined I would act so decisively and heartlessly, but I was just returning everything in his own way. If he hadn't fabricated stories and slandered me online, nearly collapsing my life, I wouldn't have gone this far today. After forcing them out, I immediately called the agent and a locksmith to change the locks. The client who came to view the house was very satisfied and immediately left a deposit after the viewing. As I was leaving the complex, I ran into Walter and Susan on the road, both looking gloomy. Susan was crying and asking him, "So, where do we sleep tonight?" Walter was puffing on a cigarette. The moment he saw me, he lunged forward and grabbed the hem of my coat. "Lani, you can't treat me like this. Can you just abandon years of affection like that?" I gave him a cold look. "Your childhood friend is standing right there. You'd best keep your distance from me in case something happens and you blame me again." With that, I forcefully shook off his hand. Walter hadn't given up and was about to take another step when a motorcycle sped close by, startling him into falling onto the ground. Phelan Harry removed his helmet and tossed it to me, all sorted out. "Let's go." That evening, he took me to his family's main residence for dinner, saying his parents wanted to meet me. Honestly, I was very nervous. I heard that wealthy families always had many rules, and I wasn't the type to be overly ingratiating. Perhaps he noticed my anxiety, because he unexpectedly took my hand, his warm palm sending a comforting heat into my heart. But contrary to my expectations, the dinner that evening was surprisingly pleasant. His mother was very pleased with me, even making my best friend jealous. "My mom treats you better than she treats my brother." After dinner, he took me up to his room. It was then that I noticed a large poster hanging on his wall, a picture of a girl who looked stunningly similar to me. I asked blankly, "Who is this girl?" Phelan Harry didn't answer, he just silently took out a stack of photo albums and placed them in my hands. I opened them. Every picture, every scene, was a part of my past over the last 10 years. The last photo was the marriage photo from the Civil Affairs Bureau, the day he and I officially got married. I looked up, stunned, and asked, "So all of this is me?" He looked at me helplessly and nodded slightly. "If not you, then who else?" It turned out that for 10 years I had been loved by him in secret. I thought it was just a fake marriage to appease the elders, but from my best friend's later account, I learned that this seemingly expedient marriage was actually a dream he had quietly nurtured for a decade.